Notice in our roll call that Mayor McNamara has stated that he is chairing another board meeting right now, so he cannot attend. Deputy Mayor Becchetti is attending that meeting as well, but he is going to make an effort to come in and be part of our meeting. So present from the board is Mark Gomes, Paul Sweet, myself, Chris Hales as chair, representing the Ontario Provincial Police. We have Inspector Glenn Miller here and Jamie Smith, Staff Sergeant Jamie Smith. From our administration, Margaret Meisick Evans is our secretary, and she's the Chief Administrative Officer of Tecumseh. And Ellen Proichat is our recording secretary, and she is also part of this meeting. At this time, I would like to ask anybody if there's any pecuniary interest with regard to the agenda for tonight's meeting. Seeing none, we'll move on. I would like an approval of this agenda, that the supplementary agenda of the Police Services Board meeting dated Thursday, October the 15th, 2020, as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof be accepted. I'm looking for a mover. Mark, and seconded by Paul. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll have a vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Our previous minutes were appended, and I am looking for that the regular minutes of our September the 10th, 2020 Police Services Board meeting as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof be adopted. I'm looking for a mover. Paul, thank you. And seconded by Mark. And any discussion on the minutes? I've read them. I didn't see anything. So all in favor? Thank you. Passed. Delegations. Well, this is wonderful. We don't often have delegations to our meeting, and this is very timely. And this subject goes back a long way with our Police Service Board, and we've always taken tremendous interest in the mental health response unit ever since it was piloted. And maybe Inspector Miller, if you could introduce our delegation, and if you could maybe give us a little bit of background history on this so that we can listen to what they have to say.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the Tecumseh Police Service Board and those that are listening as this is being live streamed. First of all, I'd like to thank the Chair and the members of the board for the opportunity of, first of all, allowing us the privilege of having both Stephanie and Blake speak to you about our mental health response unit and the various things that they do. Stephanie Beulah is a member of the Hotel Dieu Grace Hospital. She's a social worker. She is Blake Coho, who is a provincial constable with the Ontario Provincial Police. They are partners. Again, it's an amazing team that they make. Both of them have been involved in this initiative for a significant long period of time. And we really started probably about 8 years ago. And also I want to recognize Jamie Smith, your staff sergeant in Tecumseh. He was very much a part of the vision for creating this as well. And I'm also going to take the opportunity, since I'm speaking, to thank the Police Service Board. Chair Chris Hales has been a strong supporter of this particular program that we launched a number of years ago. It's difficult to launch anything that's new, particularly within a large organization, and not having really any additional resources having to find within. We recognized a number of years ago the significant number of calls that were being generated within both your community and in all communities really across the county in relation to our mental health response calls. It was very frustrating for our officers in being limited at that time only really to hope to de-escalate a situation and then probably just contact an ambulance in order to allow those individuals to be taken to a hospital where they would be dealt with by professionals. Well, your town, your Police Service Board, and collectively with ourselves, we've been really able to stay ahead of this particular issue. And we've advanced our particular program to the level that other police services and enforcement agencies across Canada look to the particular model that we helped to launch in your particular town. One of the constant things that I talk about, and I'll continue to say right now, is that this particular program that you're going to hear about saves lives. It is saving lives within the town of Tecumseh. We're not able really to talk too much about the detail or any of the specifics for confidentiality, and we always respect that. But gone are the frustrations that we used to have as police officers in not being able to assist individuals in the way that we wanted to. These individuals that, through no fault of their own, are impacted by various mental health challenges, and they're contributing members to your community. They hold, in many cases, they hold good jobs. In some cases, they have no jobs at all, but they are an important part of the community as well. And collaboratively, through the relationship that we have with Hotel Dieu, who has been absolutely amazing. They've been able to give up resources at the same time where it's difficult really for funding and everything else around this particular initiative to see what we can go and do to help to de-escalate, have a conversation with these individuals and help them to have a better day. We realize that they'll continue to probably be challenged through the rest of their life, but we don't want members of the community to be fearful of people that are impacted by mental health care challenges. We have the ability. We're not experts. The expert probably in this would be Stephanie, and I would certainly say Blake has been very fortunate, as all of us have, in learning how to deal with this particular situation. We were able to advance it to the level where in 2016, we were awarded an Amnesty Award by the Premier of Ontario for our mental health response unit. So it matters not really what we did yesterday. It matters not what we did 4 years ago. It matters a lot what we're doing today and what we're going to do tomorrow. So certainly a privilege for me to just have the opportunity of introducing both Stephanie and Blake. And they're going to kind of move you forward exactly what we're doing now in your community. And I know at the conclusion, and they'll certainly keep to a tight timeline, Mr. Chair, they'd be pleased to answer any questions of your board. So perhaps I'll turn it either to Stephanie or to Blake to start this off.
Thanks, Inspector Miller, and thanks, Staff Sergeant Smith, for the opportunity for us to speak at the Police Service Board, for the OPP in part, and thanks to the board for allowing us your time. So we know that through Inspector Miller and Staff Sergeant Smith, MHRU members have come a long way, and just like you mentioned, we had won an Amethyst Award. It's been a great opportunity to help all the people around here. That being said, we kind of really have our finger on the pulse of what's going on with the people that live in the area, and understanding that we really need to get ahead of what we did yesterday and plan for the future. So there was an initiative that came up through the community safety and policing grants. And so what we did was we prepared 2 ideas, and those ideas were the Mobile Crisis Rapid Response Team and a Youth Crisis Response Team. We put those into full operation in April of 2020. Those memorandums of understanding were signed with Hotel Dieu and Windsor Regional Hospital through both of those initiatives. The timing couldn't have been better and worse for us, because COVID, as you know, was right in the height of the opportunity in April. We were the only mental health service in this area actually going to people's house. So it was such an opportune time for people, because people were locked in their house and for a large part not receiving services that they would have otherwise been very much struggling to get. So I know that you received a report in September, and that was in regards to the some of the statistics for our 2 teams that we had started in cooperation with our mental health response unit. I just kind of want to highlight a few of those points, and Stephanie's going to kind of throw in her perspective from the hospital as well. The calls to date that the teams have dealt with, they've diverted 73% of those people from going to the hospital. That's such a meaningful thing to say, because can you imagine how overwhelmed our hospitals are with COVID going on? They do not need one more person there that can be at their home. That's what we were providing. Services to people in their home, the right resources, the right time, while remaining in their home. I'm just going to turn that over to Stephanie so she can kind of speak from a hospital perspective what that means to the hospital.
Thank you, Blake. I just wanted to add of the persons in crisis that were diverted from the hospital or from the emergency room, that these people were connected to the appropriate services in the community to better serve their needs. And it has helped these people so they're more familiar with who to contact when they are experiencing a mental health crisis in lieu of calling 911. So we have helped them by with their current crisis in doing so. Thank you.
And out of the people that have had to have been apprehended under the Mental Health Act by these two new teams, that was because they were a danger to themselves. Of that, 100% of the people taken to hospital have been admitted. Some people have to go to the hospital. And the time that our mental health teams have been at the hospital, they've averaged 33 minutes. That's half the time of a uniform officer who never had to be there in the first place. We're bringing the right people to hospital and they're being admitted for psychiatric reasons. Maybe Stephanie could say what that means to the hospital.
So what that means for the hospital is that these two new teams in conjunction with the mental health response unit have been able to reduce the wait times in the emergency room for these officers that did the apprehension, but also it has helped to streamline the services for the person in crisis when they arrive in the emergency room, because half of the work is already done. So it allows things to be kind of fast-tracked when they arrive in the hospital, and that helps everybody involved. So I just wanted to add that point. Thanks.
We've had a lot of questions surrounding what it looks like during a pandemic, how that's changed for people's mental health. So our calls had reduced significantly for about a month and a half. That's because people were afraid to reach out to help, to service providers. And like I had said, there was really nobody going to people's houses because of the COVID-19. People were struggling for a large part and staying at home with little to no intervention. So it was an opportune time to start these teams. We've returned somewhat of a predictable amount of calls in Essex County. We're on track to do at least 1,200 mental health calls for service. That is more than double anywhere else of the OPP. So I'm glad for these teams, because now we've really gotten proactive and have a better outcome and a quality of life for people. These teams don't work 24/7, but have been able to attend 38% of all mental health calls for service in the entire county. That translates into a huge cost savings and a time savings for our patrol officers to give them the ability to do other things. And just like Inspector Miller stated, Essex County continues to be a primary look to for mental health services in the OPP, as well as other police forces. We're continually asked for assistance and input, and that's because of the success of these models. So I just really want to say I appreciate what the town of Tecumseh has done in their support. So thank you for that. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate.
Well, I'll open it. Paul, please.
Just a quick question through the chair to the team. When you say two teams, does that translate into 4 people in total?
So what that looks like is the Mobile Crisis Rapid Response Team has 1 uniform officer and 1 social worker from Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare.
Okay.
The Youth Crisis Response Team has a uniform officer and a social worker from the Regional Children's Center dealing with youth primarily under the age of 18. So we really have a a life-changing model, because young to old, we can help them all.
Right. So there's 4 persons, like 2 police officers and 2 social work. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that's
Workers
absolutely.
that are comprise this response units. Then.
Yes.
1,200 calls. Are there any other questions? Well, I'll make one quick comment. This is a very old subject. 10 years ago at the Association of Police Service Boards annual meeting, a presentation was made by Hamilton with regard to wait times that uniformed officers were looking at in emergencies covering mental health issues. Hamilton's original approach to this was strictly dollars and cents. It was looking, and they were reaching out proactively, trying to figure out what to do with this. Not long after that, the Essex Detachment of the Ontario Provincial Police came forward with this mental health response unit pilot. Asked that if it could be launched in Tecumseh. We were thrilled. But I will tell you, over these years, this has become much more than a dollars and cents issue, although that's icing on the cake, no doubt about it. But I think your success with regard to reaching people in their homes, it's phenomenal. And I think that's probably why now we see other detachments of the OPP, as well as other police services across Canada, saying, "Hey, show us how you do that. How does this work? How does it work?" You know, and in a perfect world, perhaps there wouldn't be 4 people out there doing this, but perhaps there would be 8 or 12. You know what I mean? So let's build on success. And I know if the mayor was here, he would tell you whatever you need for backing from Tecumseh, just let us know. I think we're very proud of our OPP. We're very proud of this program having come out of our detachment. So that's wonderful. Any other comments, questions? Well, then I guess on behalf of the board and on behalf of the mayor, I wish he was here, because I know he would wax philosophic, because this was near and dear to his heart. We want to thank you very much for your service to the people of the town of Tecumseh, and the focus that you're putting on something that a lot of people don't think about until it's right in their face, you know, it's mental health. So thank you very much. And I would encourage you, if you want to stick around, see how the police board works, you can, but I'm sure you have many, many other things to do. So on behalf of the board and the mayor and council, thank you very much for your presentation. It was excellent.
Thank you as well.
Okay, good.
Thanks very much for having us.
Good. If we could maybe move on then to our Ontario Provincial Police monthly review. And I note Margaret had the September report. Staff Sergeant Smith, are you going to present? Oh, yep. There we go. Yep. So
Yes, Chair. I can present it.
Well then, yeah, that's perfect. That's the one. Yes. If we can click on that, and we'll bring it up. And once again, Jamie, I would ask that if you're referring to a specific page, just shout it out so that we can follow right along. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair Hales.
No
If
problem.
we can go to, I guess, page 4, once Sean's able to get the presentation up here.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sean. Page 4 here, I'll go to our top calls for service. Top call is the traffic enforcement with 59. Our bylaws, we're at 38. I looked into the bylaw calls, what type of calls were going on with that. And mostly were noise, parking complaints, and animal complaints there. And down on the bottom with other provincial statutes, I looked into that as well, just curious to see what they were. And most of them were under the Highway Traffic Act for offenses under the compulsory all where some people were congregating. Want to flip to page 5. For calls for service in Tecumseh, we're down approximately 28.1% across the board. Tecumseh's went down to 541 calls for service, which gives our officers an opportunity to concentrate on some of the traffic complaints and some of the other issues within the community. It's pretty much across the board that we're seeing these calls go down. And this could be, again, related to COVID-19 with the decrease in calls for service there. If you want to go over to page 6, Sean. Violent crime, we're down a few calls there from previous years at 11 for 2018 and 19, and we're down to 8. We're down 13.1%, and with an overall clearance rate of 71%. Property crime, we're down there. You can see in 2018, we had 124, and that's when all the car hopping was going on. It went down significantly in 19, and we're down again in 2020. There's 42% decrease in property crime. Then over to page 7. Thank you. Motor vehicle collisions, we're seeing a decrease in that, 7.1%. In Tecumseh, we're down to 26 for the year so far, or for the month of September, sorry. Fatalities, these, the most recent ones, we're down overall for the year. Unfortunately, we still continue to have fatalities. One is too many. And unfortunately, the motorcycle one was one of our members. Fortunately, the motorcycle one was one of our members. 20 struck just up on County Road 22 in Lakeshore area, but just on the border of Tecumseh. Page 8. We're seeing an increase in impaired driving. This seems to be continuing. Fortunately, Tecumseh, we didn't have any in the month of September. We're remaining consistent there. Last year we had 1, and the year before 0. Driver's license suspensions, we're seeing an increase in that. And that's mostly in relation to the stunt driving occurrences that we're seeing. You might have read it in the paper or saw on Twitter the other day. We had one in Tecumseh here on County Road 43 with someone doing, I believe it was 141 in the 60 zone along there, and their vehicle was subsequently seized. To page 9, please. Criminal code charges and YCJA charges for September. We're down a bit there as well to 15. Just below that, the drug offenses. And I think Inspector Miller might want to speak to that at the end of the presentation here in regards to the 2 charges here in Tecumseh. You can see an increase in Leamington's at 15 and Tecumseh's at 2. We're seeing an increase in relations as a result of warrants. Page 10. POA charges, we're down a bit from last year at this time. We're at 61. It matches up just below that with our traffic stops. On to page 11. Mental health response unit calls. I know Blake and Stephanie just did the presentation there. We're seeing an increase in that 28%. Tecumseh's maintaining at 7 calls this year and last year. The 911 hang-ups, they continue to decrease quite a bit, 91% decrease in that. We're down to 12 for the month of September. On to page 12. False alarm calls, we're at 34. We're seeing a decrease in there. Underneath that, the ride programs, and we're at 4 for the month of September. And just below that, our auxiliary hours, our ride-alongs were 16. And then just for the notable investigations, and I think this is where Inspector Miller might want to touch on in regards to opioids. We had an investigation that you may have read in the paper or online, social media. After a lengthy investigation, there was a 43-year-old male that was charged with manslaughter and trafficking in Schedule I substance after an opiate-related death of a 45-year-old male that resided here in Tecumseh, and that was from January. So these investigations take a bit of time to gather all the evidence to move forward with charges, and I believe Inspector Miller may want to speak to that. I'm not sure if there's any questions in regards to the presentation.
Yep, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to speak a little bit to the board about the issue of opioids and overdoses that are taking place within our communities. Sadly, it continues to be a significant call of service for us, and sadly, yes, within your community, there are individuals that are abusing those various drugs. And on more than one occasion, I would say on several occasions, because our officers are equipped with naloxone, they have saved many lives within your town. Again, the public will never hear about that unless we speak about that kind of in an abstract way. You know, sadly, kind of the proliferation of illicit drugs it's to say it's common, it's just kind of a matter of fact, sadly, for a lot of people in different communities. We spend a significant amount of resources identifying those particular locations and homes and individuals. In most cases, we know who those individuals are. The process for us, of course, in order to get a legal authorization in order to go into a residence, it is very time consuming. However, we will continue to spend whatever it takes in order to do our best to mitigate and to disrupt this type of activity within a community. And actually in September of this year, the Ontario Provincial Police issued a report that you can find online. It's called the 2019 Opioids and Overdoses. It's called Impacts, and it kind of highlights various statistics and what we're seeing in the trends in relation to opioids in OPP-placed communities. The OPP as identified in 2019, sadly, a 34% increase in overdose-related deaths in relation to opioids. Every 4.7 hours in Ontario, a person dies from the use of opioids. We are continuing often to go to the same locations, the same residences where people have overdosed in the past, only to once again revive them and get them for medical attention. So, you know, we have the various synthetic drugs, we have fentanyl, we have carfentanil. In order to address this, we talk a lot about the Good Samaritan Act. And the Good Samaritan Act does provide some protection for individuals that would possess those drugs and be using them for their own use. We want people to call 911 immediately if that is to take place so that we can get some assistance to them immediately. But at the same time, we intend, as Jamie spoke about in your town, we're going to hold those people accountable. for those that provide those drugs and illicit drugs to those individuals that are consuming them. So the OPP laid 102 charges related to 12 overdose related deaths in 2019. And that was a 500% increase over 2018. And we've highlighted just one for the town of Tecumseh. But again, these are things that generally the public does not see, that we're kept extremely busy with. I can tell you now, only because it's streaming on social media, I won't give a location. I can only speak about it because our officers are now safely inside of a drug house where they've just raided. And I would expect probably the next few days, you'll see a media release that we will issue pertaining to that particular investigation. But we will be relentless in our pursuit of those individuals. We encourage the public to reach out to us, to reach out to Crime Stoppers. We have significant resources that we bring to bear in doing this. Again, this is the entity that people will often say that they don't see the police. Well, they see the police, I guess, in the black and whites. What they don't see is all the other resources, and significant as they are, that we have within your community that are allowing us to build the appropriate grounds, judicial grounds, so that we can deal with those particular situations. And ultimately, if it needs to be taken to a higher level, then we are fully prepared to do that as well. Regardless of where that level may be, we have the resources to do that, and we're continuing to do that all the time. So it is a really excellent report for the members of the board to read, and for the public as well. It's very current, and it shows the focus that we have, because again, very few people will hear about a death that's related to opioids. You're not going to hear about that, but I can tell you, we're hearing about it with more than a frequency than we'd like, for sure. However, we developed the means now in order to appropriately deal with those investigations, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a significant lot of time. It's a death investigation. It's like a homicide investigation, a manslaughter investigation. So we'll see that particular one as that unfolds, certainly in court at a later time. So that's just kind of my little discussion about drugs and about opioids that are taking place within your area, and in fact, but they're taking place all over as well.
Inspector Miller, could you pass on the link to that report to Ellen, and Ellen can make sure that all members of the police board can, if they wish to, can access it on their own and have a look at it?
Sure can.
Lovely, perfect. Okay.
Okay.
Are there any questions with regard to the monthly report from Staff Sergeant Smith, or the discussion on opioids and other drugs in Tecumseh that Inspector Miller led? Please, Inspector Miller, you want to say something? Go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks very much. I don't want to monopolize.
You can't question yourself, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to question myself at all. No. If I'm just going to move away from the opioids right now, just a really quick snapshot here. This is a Cybersecurity Awareness Month, the month of October. And in 2020, because of COVID, it's resulted in a significant number of people having to spend more time in their homes, and consequently people, working, attending school, and looking for entertainment online. Cyber criminals are quick to capitalize on this, and they are. And has resulted in a 400% increase in cyber attacks. Cyber criminals don't just have one motivation for what they're doing, for they may have many. And there are criminal benefits, certainly ranging from financial gain to political gain, to raising awareness of one's cause or an ideology, or even causing damage through acts of anarchy. These interests may serve themselves or a larger group of which they have a vested interest. So I've passed information on to your town before. If your town and the infrastructure was to be attacked by a cyber attack, or if individuals that within the community are bilked out of money, or have been cheated while online, or they feel that there is a cyber attack, it's important that they call 911. We have a cyber team, the Ontario Provincial Police, and we bring that to bear within your community, and we certainly have for a number of individuals that sadly have lost significant amounts of money. And they've tried to do everything the right way. So I would probably use my computer the same way that you would use yours. I'm certainly not the best at it for sure, but I try to be safe. But you know what? Even the opportunity would exist for myself if I'm kind of not paying attention. So I just really urge everybody that's listening to be mindful of that at all times. There's lots of media on that. But most important, don't be embarrassed. If you've been taken advantage of something, please tell the OPP about this, because we have some people that are absolute masters with this type of technology. And we will do our very best to start an investigation for you and see where it takes us. So I just wanted to talk about Cyber Awareness Month, Mr. Chair.
Inspector Miller, thank you very much. Obviously, we're hoping there are people listening into our live streaming or will access it later, and that's a good resource. Just as a little chestnut onto that, the company that I ended my career with was cyber attacked with ransomware, massively. It cost them, I will not tell you how much time and effort. In their remediation of this, they hired a top-class cybersecurity agency to look at their systems and everything. And in the discussions with the partnership group, this agency said that the cyber criminals who do the ransomware probably have set this thing in motion years or a year ahead of time. And they have them all across North America. And it's just like good business planning. They know how long it takes to resolve and get, this was a Bitcoin request. They trigger these little bombs that are sitting in people's computer systems sequentially as to get a normalized cash flow. So you have to realize that the level of sophistication we're talking about is massive. It's internationally sophisticated, Bitcoin aware, and untraceable. These are nasty, nasty, nasty people. So that's just a little chestnut. So we'll go back to the original report and ask, are there any questions with regard to the statement?
Myself, there we go. Thank you, Inspector, for bringing that forward. I could tell you there's two components of it. Obviously, there's the good old Trojan horse that people not paying attention and stuff goes into that is sleeping in somebody's computer, and the other is the phishing. And I get probably 10 to 15 phishing expeditions on my accounts at the county and here. And you're absolutely correct. I mean, in terms of you need to pay attention what's coming in. The phishing ones, I find it's just some things where even I was asked to just through payroll at the county, basically saying, did you request your bank account to be changed, and so that your payroll, your documents would be shipped someplace else? And I said, absolutely not. So there's an example of somebody paying attention and dealing with it. The other one on the phishing one is, to me, is very easy. The URL on the top, just look at that, and then you start seeing Nigeria, Thailand, China, in terms of where they're coming from. And it's just a very little exercise of paying attention on that particular area. But I'm glad you brought this up for this month, because I think it's something that even our employees at times need to be reminded on an ongoing basis, about what's happening. Just recently, we know one of our agencies in the county got hit for $300,000. That's a big hit of taxpayers' money. And so you're absolutely correct. If you're not on your game, are really paying attention closely, it's very easy to get trapped into this whole issue of cyber. And so it's critical that all of us, and even at home, to pay attention in terms of, what's flowing into, your email accounts, and not only that, but in areas of social media and wherever you're trying to reach out, is to make sure you try to reach out to, secure sites that make sense. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Are there any other questions, comments on this part of the report? One thing that does not appear here is, are there any outstanding complaints that are unresolved against the Tecumseh detachment? That used to be a little adder on the bottom of the report, and I see none, and I'm assuming there are no, that means there are no outstanding complaints. Am
That's
I
correct. There's none.
Excellent. That's just excellent. The next part of this, before we move this, is I'd like maybe Paul Sweet to lead into this. But we have been contacted some questions about security clearances, and I know that Staff Sergeant Smith is prepared to respond. But maybe Paul, if you could just come online and maybe give the introduction as to how this came about. This question about during COVID, the security clearances, etc. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. I was certainly just as we entered, I guess, phase 3, when a lot of, when the schools were going to open up and people, volunteers were certainly starting to go back into into action in our community. People obviously had to go for the criminal record check thing there. And at the same time, the OPP, I guess, corporately moved the process all online. And to say it was frustrating is it's unique, and I realized that it's a decision that was made, corporately and not, in our local detachment. But and I myself went on to it, and to access the documents and that, and it's the government of Ontario has got their document section. I don't know if in any other, it's the same basically source where they store documents, and I guess across all the ministries, and it's a nightmare to get to download documents there easily, because and then the other factor is a lot of these documents are in PDF format, and Adobe, for whatever reason, I guess obviously to make money, has it though when it comes up on people's computers that the first thing it wants you to do is buy the full version of an Adobe product. Versus the free one, and people it's very confusing to get this. So I just like to say is that, a lot of feedback out there that, I think sometimes, there's an economy of scales when you do something corporately, but on the other hand, I think there's an opportunity, certainly locally, is when, these are the people that are volunteers in our community. They're employed here. They're a base taxpayer. This may be the one and only interaction they have with the policing community, and yearly, and that's it. And it's, I think sometimes they have to put the S in service, and hopefully we can get back to at least to the local detachment sometime soon, where it's it's a positive interaction for people coming in like that. These are people that are donating very precious resources to our community, and to it's. I think and it's a good opportunity for our police for them to see it and have a positive experience, rather than getting deflected off onto some website somewhere. So just comments that I've got, a number of comments I've heard, and I appreciate the staff sergeant sending me the information he's got, from the corporately, and the length of times and all the frustrations with that. But the process is hopefully smooths out, and I said I do hope that it does come back locally to our detachments at some point in time, because
so to put some context into this, the question was asked, Paul, with regard to the online application for security clearances, and Subsequently, Paul did some research and found out there are other issues with regard to online security clearances. And the question was asked to Staff Sergeant Smith, I think, or it fell to you to give the response. And you provide a report to us. And without dragging this out too long, maybe if you could just highlight some of the things that you've discovered with regard to how security clearances during the time of COVID. There are people listening to us or watching us right now who this may be of interest to them. So this is a great opportunity maybe to spread this to a wider audience. So Staff Sergeant Smith, I give you the opportunity to fire away.
Thank you, Chair Hales, and thank you, Paul, for raising the issue. Inspector Miller might want to comment on this as well. We did have significant issues with the online portion of it and phasing it in, and we have since moved back to doing them locally. So that happened last Friday. We started going back to it, and I can share with you that the mailbox was full with approximately 500 applications. So you can imagine the time and effort that our secretaries put into these criminal record checks. They can do them very quickly, but the way the process they had, we had assigned some of the girls to process them here locally through the online application, and there was some issues, as you brought up, Paul, in regards to them. And they quickly moved away from that process. I'm not sure, and this is where the inspector could probably chime in, but I'm not sure if we're going to move back to an online at some point. There was issues with the point of sale of where you could pay for these clearances and that. And I know the girls have been working very hard moving forward, getting these done, coming in on weekends, working extra hours at night to get them all caught up, because they don't stop coming in. You know, you got 500 that are sitting there on a Friday, and you know, you come in on the Monday and there's another 100 or 200 sitting there for processing. Inspector, I don't know if you have any, I'm sure you know a little bit more about it than I do.
Yeah, thanks very much, and Jamie, and through the chair. First of all, I want to apologize to the citizens of Tecumseh. I know how important it is for you to get a criminal record check in a timely manner. I know a lot of it is dependent on having that in order for you to get a job. Essex County does probably the largest number of criminal records checks of all OPP detachments in the province of Ontario. We do thousands and thousands of record checks. So we have gone back now to our detachments and our detachment administrative clerks to be able to do that. In the meantime, the organization is now building the infrastructure in order to handle the pure volume, so that, as Paul was talking about, people won't have that difficulty anymore. On the other side of this, I'm glad that people reached out to us on this. I mean, we not only had the frustrations from our own DACs, of course, and from through yourself, and we thank you for that, because we immediately advanced that to headquarters and told them that the challenges, and provided also with some remedies and suggestions. And I think one of the suggestions is exactly what Jamie was talking about, and it was kind of pivotal to make that change for the organization across the province to say, we're gonna stop it, we're gonna go back to kind of the way that it was. So we were getting calls late at night from people that were very anxious, not from the people that applied, because again, they wouldn't necessarily know how to reach out to us, but it was from big time employers and school boards and hospitals that they needed that. So with thanks to our staff, and a lot of staff certainly in Tecumseh, they were working actually through the weekends and late at night. And we were able to facilitate, because we didn't want someone to lose a job because we didn't have the ability to get a criminal records check done in a timely manner. So I do apologize for that frustration, because that's not how we're known in doing business. We're finally able to kind of go back to the way that we're doing it. So now I'm pleased that we're moving along. We do get hundreds and hundreds of record checks. So we do ask that, sadly, a large percentage of them are not filled out correctly. And that became a bit of the problem as well, where you're getting hundreds, and then we've got to send, 150 or 175 back because they forgot to fill something out. So that became a delay. So people have it now, they know how to do it. Just take your time, that's all. Just be patient, take your time. we'll do it. We understand the importance, and it doesn't matter what type of job you hold. If you've been asked by an employer for this and you're paying for that, we're going to do our absolute best to get that to you. So I'm not used to saying I'm sorry, but on this particular thing, I was frustrated as well. And I apologize that all of you, and I guarantee the ones that are both on the board and the administrative staff of the town and other people didn't like what took place, but we're back to doing the great service that we're known for. So please continue to hold our feet to the fire on this issue. And I know our members, and particularly our docs, will continue to outperform.
I think that's excellent. And I'm really glad that Paul did bring that up, so that, this is a good forum to air those things out, especially if you want to present things to people who are watching live streams, that they understand the frustrations that you're going through on trying to process them, and their frustration, especially when someone's job is hanging on getting that clearance. So that's excellent. I think we can put that to bed. I would like a motion then that the OPP report for the month of August, September, as well as the report on the COVID record checking be received. I'm looking for someone to move that. Paul, seconded by Mark. Any discussion on that? And all in favor? Move on. Thank you so much. Section H of our agenda, reports, there are none. Section I, communications, action required, there are none. So we're down to communications for information purposes. We received a letter from the Solicitor General, October 2nd, 2020. And the only point I would say with what the Solicitor General was emphasizing under the new Police Services Act is the fact that, again, they're looking that boards be constituted that reflect the racial and ethnic diversity of their communities. This is something that we have discussed with all the contract holding municipalities in Essex County, is how to do that when we amalgamate as a single board. So it's interesting that of that large letter that the Solicitor General put out, they're still holding that in there, that each individual detachment-based board is going to have to come up with a system that makes sure that the people on the board reflect the total constituency of Essex County. That's going to be very interesting to see how we do that. The second letter is from the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards, and it's an invitation to the 2020 labor seminar. That's received. As we know, that and no matter what the literature says, that is really aimed at Section 31 boards that have to go through pattern bargaining with all the various police associations. Section 10 boards are not in that position. So that's just received for information purposes only. The next is the Municipal Policing Bureau billing statement. That is received. We would note that this forms the basis of which Margaret and the team comes up with the municipal budget. They have a lot of work to do to dissect what's in here and then come back to us with what they feel should be presented to council. We need to review that. I would suggest to you that you start by looking at what the Ontario Provincial Police is proposing before we see what the council, what administration is going to present to council. This is a large piece of business. It's $3.4 million for the policing contract, for the base policing contract for Tecumseh, with no enhancements considered. So it's a start point. It's a good document to look at, and it's certainly backed up with a lot of statistical information from the Ontario Provincial Police Business Bureau. So I suggest to members of the board to make sure you look at that. The next is, and that's all. So I guess I'm looking for a motion that the correspondence detailed in items 1 through 3 be received. And that's excuse me, and that's passed. Thank you. Also, there's, an item 3, the budget be referred to, I'm sorry, and I missed one. So also the fact that as well as received, that item 3, which is the detailed budget, be referred to for budget deliberations. I know. I should have spent the extra $10, Mr. Mayor. Got the good ones. Thank you. Under old business, we have an update, I guess, from our CEO with regard to the community safety and well-being plan. I mean, that's massive undertaking. And Margaret, do you have some update on that for us?
Actually, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the board. Just very briefly, that there will be a presentation by the project team on the community safety and well-being plan to the Tecumseh Council on October 27th. And that will be from 6 until 7 p.m. And obviously by Zoom. So if members of the board are interested, we can ask Ellen to, well, actually, it's pretty easy to just actually go on the town's website and click on the link. It's a special meeting all its own between 6 and 7. So you'll be able to observe the meeting as it's live streamed. Okay.
I don't think there's any questions.
Oh, you've just muted yourself there.
I don't.
There we go.
I don't think there would be any questions on that. And that's just for information. We can move on. We come to the unclaimed funds at the OPP detachment, and Margaret sent forward a report that I think is excellent, and we can act upon that. Certainly, we don't have to disperse the funds, but we can certainly get the funds because now we know that there is an accounting procedure to do that. So maybe, Margaret, I don't know if you want to speak to that just very quickly, and then we can decide what to do very quickly.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So through you, the memo does outline a process for taking the funds into the town's accounting and then being deposited there until the board determines how it should be distributed. Now, we did suggest a motion that we act on the first part of that with the deposit to the town of Tecumseh. And at the time that we prepared the memo, or it was our understanding that the mayor and deputy mayor were unable to attend this evening. And so we suggested that the disposition of these funds be deferred to the meeting when the next meeting of the board when all members were present. But whatever your pleasure is this evening, we still don't have full complement here tonight with the deputy mayor not present. So that's still an option if that's the pleasure of the board.
Well, okay, while we're coming away from that report letter, I would just like to say that I think we should take the money in and defer the disbursement of the money until Deputy Mayor Becchetti is part of the discussion. I know that Mayor McNamara has spoken that there are some things near and dear to his heart, which I think most of the board really does agree with, and I don't think there'll be much discussion of that. There are two very good places to put it. One is certainly VIB program. The other one is the cops camp, all of which is like Gary has said, is focused strictly on our youth. And I think that's a wonderful way to disperse that money. But in the meantime, I would put forward a motion. I don't think I'm going to get any pushback on that, that the unclaimed funds from the OPP detachment in the amount of approximately $1,100 be deposited with the town of Tecumseh, and that a decision on the distribution of these funds be deferred to the next meeting of the board with all members present. And I'm looking for someone to move that motion. Mayor McNamara, seconded by Paul Sweet. Okay, and if there's any discussion on that motion at all before we proceed? No, good. All in favor? Excellent. That's good. Very good. We'll go on to now. The last item is the 2021 Police and Police Service Board budget. And that's with regard to the fact that the town's requirement to create their budget, our requirement to review the police services cost and the cost of running this board do not line up using our standard meetings. So we may require a special meeting for that. Margaret, I don't know if you or Ellen has looked at the calendars or if you'd like to speak to that, but we certainly we can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, we actually met with Finance earlier today to make sure that we understood the timetable that they are working to. And we can advise that it would be in our best interests here at the town if the board could assemble either the week of the 9th of November or the 16th of November to consider the draft police and PSB budget. So how would you like us to us to canvass members on those weeks and come up with a date that is suitable to everyone so that we have full attendance, Mr. Chair?
It would be my suggestion that you canvass. I haven't got my my planner here or my cell phone right near me, so I don't know. But we're talking about a Zoom meeting, I suppose.
Yes,
that is backed up by both our police service board proposed budget and then the police service budget, so we can have a good look at that real quick. It's not a big process. We have our last year's reference. You will notice in the billing model that we have to give the OPP some extra money that we were a little bit short. So that all gets talked out pretty thoroughly by our CAO. So I think as long as we have the reference material, we can make a decision fairly quickly.
Okay, we can certainly canvass, and we could also deal with the motion on the unclaimed funds at that time if we go forward.
Absolutely. The only question.
No, but just Mr. Chair, I know for us, if you're looking at maintaining a Thursday, whatever the weeks are, if you keep away from the third Thursday, that's I chair the Windsor Health Unit, and so it's pretty difficult for the chair not to attend those meetings, and also the deputy mayor sits on that committee as well. And so the previous Thursday, I think the week of Margaret, correct me, the 9th, which would be the 12th on that Thursday, for me, that would be okay, not an issue. And I'm sure you'd rather be sooner than later.
Okay, well, we'll do a little canvas, keeping that in mind, that particular day in mind, and obviously the 11th of November is the offices of the town are closed that day for Remembrance Day. So with those two exceptions, we'll canvass for a time that's convenient during those 2 weeks. Just need to unmute there, Mr. Chair, please. Thank you.
Trying to be so good with this extraneous noise coming into the discussion. So that's good. So we can move on then. There is no new business. Our next meeting is scheduled to be on Thursday, December 10th. It probably would be a good time to remind everybody that in keeping with COVID, what's going on, we will not have a get together or anything for the holiday. It's please, Glenn.
Yep, thank you very much. And just kind of one item when you mentioned the word COVID, I think the board and those listening on stream would be interested in just kind of understanding exactly how busy the OPP in the town of Tecumseh and within the Essex County is being kept in relation to those particular occurrences. Since early March until October the 3rd of this year, within the town of Tecumseh, we have responded to 187 COVID-related calls. And just to kind of explain how that works is in a lot of cases, when people are arriving from out of the country and returning back to their home, we receive an immediate notification. And of course, those individuals are required to remain at home for a 2-week period. And when we say remain at home, we mean remain at home. It's not, they're not supposed to be stopping from the airport or wherever to get groceries. That should have all been looked after. So we're very strict on that. I can tell you that we have laid a number of charges under the the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, and of course now the Reopening of Ontario Act as well. I want to thank the residents of the town of Tecumseh for listening to public health and listening to the various legislations that are coming down. I know there's a lot of them to absorb. We understand that. We are very strict on this, however, I can tell you that. The fines are very significant, and they're significant for a reason. It's the best interest of public health and everybody to keep everybody within the community healthy. So our OPP officers are very busy in continuing to do that and respond to a number of calls. We have responded to in excess of 1,100 calls. So, I mean, that's not something that we would have expected to do. Those are very time consuming, again, that require a lot of resources, but they're responded to expeditiously as well. And I can say, unless Jamie knows otherwise, I don't think we've had to lay any charges in the town of Tecumseh. That's not the case in other areas. So again, thank you, residents of Tecumseh.
Well, Inspector Miller, first of all, because there are people watching this live streaming, I think it's very excellent that they come to understand when the province enacted their Emergency Management Act, the enormous burden that was placed upon all the police services across the province of Ontario, including the Ontario Provincial Police, in first of all coming up to speed on all the things that were being asked of them, and all the COVID related things. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, that when the government says we're going to go into an emergency management mode, just what that entails. And so it's very good that you could speak about the extra work burden that's put upon our police service, in addition to carrying out their normal day-to-day policing activities. I thank you for bringing that to everybody's attention. It's excellent. Any other comments about that? Okay. And so we've talked about our next meeting. It's going to be at December the 10th, at 4:30. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Before we do that, I'd be remiss on 2 points. I want to thank Staff Sergeant Smith for quickly dealing with an issue on Carmelita. I couldn't believe it. I come home from the meeting after, and it was dealt with. So thank you for that, and the officer that responded. I think that was terrific. And I'd be remiss if I didn't continue to say, keep the good work up, and make sure that County Road 22. Even that, I think the individual you got on County Road 43 was bypassing the 22, but God forbid you got them anyway.
Yeah, 143 in a 60 click zone that's 40, moving.
Yeah, that is. Well, I mean, it's one thing. It's their own life in the vehicle, but it's others, and that's a farming road that's very busy this time of the year. So. Kudos to the officers that went out there. So all in all, I'll leave it at that. So have a good evening.
Okay, so let's
move by German.
Okay, moved by the mayor, seconded by Paul. All in favor? Thank you very much. It was a good, straightforward meeting. See you next month.
Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Stay safe.